Hi, everybody. Okay, here we go. A little bit of background, what you just heard. We're Cape Classics. Mission statement, which you don't need to read now. If you're interested, you could go find it online. But I chose this topic 6 months ago, and I kind of parked it because I chose it after being at one of these conferences and walking up and down these rows, right? And you walk in the door and you go up one, you go down the other. And it's easy to feel when a brand is authentic or if a brand is just a brand. So I thought maybe we'd spend a little time talking about that today. Here's our portfolio. Oh, I can just look here. So the first brand we're going to talk about is Indaba Wines. Every authentic, true brand, I mean meaningful brands, not agribusiness, not made up in a boardroom, are brands that have an authentic brand genesis. There's an aha moment when you realize you want to create something of substance, not just something to sell. So the Indaba brand is where we'll start, and the brand genesis was simple. Why can't a $10 wine be fantastic? Why can't someone that knows wine, loves wine, get excited for something that's $10, $11, buy it by the case, and have it be an honest part of their life instead of feeling that you have to spend 12, 15, 18, 24. So that was the genesis of how this started. Now, we work in South Africa. Anyone in the room been to South Africa? Actually, we have a couple, right? So I first went in 2006. And for those of you that have been, I still to this day remember flying home, scrambling to write a business plan, right? Like something that would bring me back and keep me there several months a year. It is a place with an enormous amount of beauty and a very high personal EQ, meaning you meet very special people in a very beautiful place. So we've got this place that's been making wine for 360 years, and we have this genesis of why can't great wine be $10, and really something was born. The other part of it is a deeply rooted sense that we know we work in beverage alcohol. And you really can't look the other way and say alcohol is only a good topic for society. And we work in a country with 40% unemployment rate. We work in a country with extraordinary levels of fetal alcohol syndrome. And we said, okay, this can't be just about selling wine. Why can't we make wine a vehicle to help the society and we work? So we had birthed an Indaba Foundation with the brand to take a percentage of the proceeds and say, okay, how can we not just sell wine, sell great wine, but do something meaningful with the profits? So, step one in all of this, after you know who you want to be and what you want to do, is you've got to find your tribe. I would venture to say, anyone at a booth outside right now that can't articulate in 1 to 5 minutes exactly who they're hoping to meet and why isn't going to find a lot of success. If you don't know who you're looking for, you're not going to create a message that'll speak to that person and draw that person in, and then for that person, you're just another booth along the way. So for us, step one, something we work on quite a bit is finding our tribe. So my background was Trader Joe's. So 2 lifetimes ago, I was the wine buyer for Trader Joe's. I bought every bottle of wine sold in any Trader Joe's in the United States. And Trader Joe's was adamant that their core customers, what they called the unemployed PhD, highly educated, well-traveled, but watching every penny. The kind of person that walks into that store and recognizes that crazy new flavor because they've been to that country or they've traveled through that country and wants to buy and be part of it, but instead of paying $6.99, can buy it for $3.99 and bring it home that night. So we really target the unemployed PhD for the Indaba wine brand. Someone that's not looking for labels, doesn't only buy Bordeaux, doesn't only buy wine that's over $25. Someone that really knows their wine and that first glass says, damn it, I want a case. Where can I get that? Some testimonials. It is a brand that really resonates with its crowd. We speak in a very specific way so the people looking to be spoken to that way hear us and have an enormous base of testimonials. Sorry, I can't really see this. So you have your genesis. You know who you want to be, and you identify your tribe. You start creating a message that speaks in a specific way to a specific person. If you're an intellectual brand, you don't speak in a way that is outlaw or renegade or rule breaker, right? You speak in academic terms. If you're a fun brand, you don't send out to the universe very serious messages. Does this make good sense? Once you know who you're speaking to, you have to find a way to day in, day out, with every photo, with every word, be very true to that message. So you're constantly rewarding the people that are understanding your message and radiating out a message that other like-minded people will find. So, before we move on, you have to mean it. My point is very simple. If you're a winery, and we travel wineries all over the world, and I can visit a winery and in 10 minutes really have a sense if the people trying to sell to me even believe in what they're doing. You know, maybe you've grown 18 varietals on your farm and they're all okay. Unless you believe, or your message or your quality drives that this is special, this is real, this is different, this is an outlier from the sea of everything else you'll taste, the consumer knows it. Average attracts average, great attracts great. You have to understand where you're going and why. What's your point of differentiation first? And then who do you want to attract? And then do a great job consistently day after day. Actually, less words now, more photos, but even the photos have to be consistent to your message to make sure you're really bringing in who do you want to bring in. A great brand doesn't want everyone walking through that door to stop at their table. A great brand wants a very specific segment of the people walking in that door to find their table, and then does everything possible to attract that segment. So another very fun one is a brand called Jam Jar. Has anyone seen Jam Jar out and about? Do you guys know the Jam Jar brand? I in my career have had the pleasure of working on a lot of brands. I don't know if any have been more fun than Jam Jar. Jam Jar was birthed with a really amazing brand genesis. Really amazing. Now, this may seem totally normal in 2019, but in 2009, as we created this, it was unheard of. We simply stated, if you like your red wine sweet, why do you have to lie? Why can't you have a product produced for you that is fantastic? That's not somebody's junk wine where they pile in sugar. Why can't you have a product that is actually made and crafted at levels that has writers, somms, journalists excited about the category? So we had this idea saying, actually it started with the wine. We had this amazing juice from this region called Pharrell that's a little warmer than Stellenbosch, where you had this amazing residual sugar, but this acidity that balanced it out. It's the kind of wine where the RS is huge, and no MW or MS has ever guessed it properly because there's so much acidity. So we said, okay, this is for someone. We believe deeply, if you have a wine store in America, I don't care if it's Sherry Lehman, I don't care who it is, you have a customer walking in your door every week that likes their red wine a little sweet. So we had this mantra saying, you don't need to sell them all, you don't have to sell bad ones. Sell a great one that you can be proud of and the customer can be proud of. So you'll notice the first thing we did, right? So you have your genesis. You're saying why these people don't have to hide anymore. We're going to put it on the label. Step one is we put it on the label, which at that point nobody mainstream was doing. You know, it was a pretty big gamble to roll it out as sweet Shiraz. Even today, as the category moves, there's an awful lot of sweet reds out there with massive RS that don't label it. It's just the consumer finds it. So we worked on a community. We knew there is a new to category drinker. So not necessarily legal drinking age. New to category can mean 21, 41, or 71. You know, I often joke my dad just turned 80. My dad was a bourbon guy his whole life, right? It was a very simple recipe until his doctor said no more bourbon. He's like, okay, I'm going to drink wine. Everyone says wine's healthy. So he's now a jam jar drinker because he's new to the category. He's interested in wine, but he wants a little sweetness. And this happens, our demographic test showed us all the way through. It's not just legal drinking age. You can get trapped in something like this and think you're really just talking to 21-year-olds, but you're talking to new to category. This is what I mean about a mature, deep dive to go in to say, who am I talking to? Why am I talking to them? If you pin yourself with an age, you might be speaking new to category language for a 21-year-old and alienating your 30, 40, 50, and 60. And with Jam Jar, it really ran the gamut. So out of the gate, we built a really special community that says, you don't have to be afraid of wine. It is silly to be afraid of wine. That come join the Jam Jar army, and it's just exploded. We produced this thing with 2,000 cases, just as an idea because the juice was so good, and we said, why don't we try this? Our first national account we brought to HEB in Texas. 2 months in, not even fully bottled, they bought 8,000 cases in the meeting. We touched a nerve. So now you have to follow that wave. You create your community, you follow your community, and you find where are people that are new to category shopping. You know, back then it wasn't quite so easy as Facebook ads. You actually had to figure out what they were doing on your own. And we sponsored events that were young, maybe new to category young, or we did art shows. We threw it out everywhere to say, who wants to come into the wine crowd? We partnered with a lot of beer events because we figured there are people that are drinking beer that were ready to cross over, and we could give them that bridge to cross over. But that ties back into you have to know what you're doing. Who are you trying to talk to, and where do you find them? And once you find them, talk to them. So going to beer events was a no-brainer. We didn't have to pay because there was never any wine sponsors at these events. Usually the sponsors were thrilled to have us for the cost of samples we could join. Okay. I don't know if we put the video on this, did we? No. All right, so I'll tell you a quick story. Oops. So, it is a Friday in the summer of 2018. I was hosting an educational tasting for OIV Paris, and I'm in our conference room, and my whole office is screaming. I mean, I thought someone brought in a puppy or a baby, or like somebody did something, but it was almost to the point where I was a little frustrated because I had 12 students from France in the office. Pharrell Williams had just dropped this video to his 10 million Instagram followers about Jam Jar. I thought it was embedded, but I guess it's not embedded. Anyway, this taught us a big lesson, because I don't know about you, but I presumed someone like Pharrell Williams is drinking Grand Cru Burgundy at his net worth, his sophistication level, his net worth. But what was amazing, so Pharrell Williams, I learned this from my wife when I got home since I didn't know, had abstained from alcohol his whole life until, anyone want to guess? Until he had kids. And he came out of the gate, I think, with triplets and started drinking and found Jam Jar. And it was this important lesson. So he puts out this video to 10 million followers, calls our office that night, flies us to LA, wants to buy Jam Jar, wants to be in the Jam Jar brand. But the point is, his reaction was not unique. His reaction was like everybody else's Jam Jar reaction, but he's Pharrell Williams, which comes back to that there's new to category at every age. There's new to category at every income bracket. So once you have your product and you know what you're doing, you have to really focus, explore. We do a lot of consumer tastings, we do a lot of focus groups saying, who's buying our wine? Before this moment, I didn't think Pharrell Williams was buying our wine. I didn't think whatever high income demographic he fits into buys our wine, but there it was, it came to us. And his reaction was like everyone else that's always been interested in wine, doesn't know how to start, is afraid, because it's almost, everybody remember their first beer? Right? Everyone's had a first beer in their life. I don't know how old you are. I know few people that loved their first beer. It was gross. It's bitter, it's dry, we're not programmed, right? We're new to any category. We start sweet and we learn dry. It's our brain chemistry. This goes from pizza sauce to bacon to anything you're eating. We start sweet. We're looking for energy, we're looking for calories, and we learn dry. Well, that happens at 21, 41, 61, 81, making $30,000 a year or $15 million a year. It's all there. It's just once you know who you're talking to, you have to find those routes to get to them. This comes back to what we were saying about Indaba. I'm sorry, I really can't see it. So, we created this category. So the funny thing happens is once you're launched and you have your ethos, your genesis, and you're out there running, lots of times the universe will force you to be more specific. We never guessed that a year or two in, we'd create this whole category that Gallo and Constellation would join. And then all of a sudden, everyone comes in, the wine group, Constellation, Gallo, and they come in under us, at this price point under us, and knock us up into the premium sweet red category, right? But then that's the space. So then you have to create your messaging, adjust your messaging to defend the premium category, and that's what we do in anything we do. This is not just another wine brand. This is an incredibly well-made, honest, sweet red wine brand. And everything we do, from every shelf talker to every post to every event, we're doing a big roof deck party tomorrow night. That message has not changed in 10 years, and it only gets louder and louder and louder the more consistent you get. So, coming back to authenticity, you can't lie about this stuff. I mean, you can, but everybody knows it. Everybody that walks by your booth knows it. They can feel it if it's not sincere. They can feel it if it's not authentic. It has to be birthed. If you don't have a point out of the gate, a product that says, I'm different. Okay, we could go taste every gin out there right now. How many of you think are really different? Right, so it starts there. You can put them all blind in like 40 cups and then look for the outliers. That's where I think it's exciting. But the thing is, the people that aren't the outliers don't really know they're not the outliers, but the consumer does. It's not as simple as if you make it and package it, it'll work anymore. That might get you a sale and then nothing, right? The point is you have to mean what you're doing. You have to be authentic in your branding, or else you're just another brand. Maybe one of the 3,000 brands that'll float into the US market this year and quickly float out of it. So you need a genesis. Step one is, what am I doing? I'll come back to the wine aspect because I spend my time in that category. What's your soil do that's better than anyone else's? What's happening on your property that's unique to your region? What's that elevator pitch? It's really hard to do. I don't know how many people in the room are brand owners. Can you raise your hand? So it's a painful, I just want to say, I call it an experiment. But what do you say when you have 30 seconds? Like, can you convince someone in 30 seconds that you're interesting? Because if you can't, it's over. And we do this exercise all across the US, and it's amazing because I realize how often the people pitching me really don't even believe it themselves. Their Chardonnay is another Chardonnay, and it might be priced a few pennies less, a few pennies more, but it's their Chardonnay. So step one is this genesis that says, what do I do better than everybody else? By the way, this goes for personal development as well. This is actually a really great tie into how we develop ourselves. What do you personally do better than anyone else? But it has to start with something authentic. It has to start with something meaningful. And then once you have that, you need your vision. And your vision really pulls you into, who's your tribe? Who do I want to sell to? I'll keep coming back to that front door, because the people that'll be successful here aren't looking for everybody. They know who they're looking for. They're looking for a certain look, feel, vibe, age, interest, sparkle in their eye, and they kind of laser beam in, speak to that person with their signage, with the words they use, with the product that's on the table, and then positive reinforcement. Once you get some success, everything gets easier. That first event, that first tasting, because now you're formulating your recipe. Now you're formulating that path that works, and once you can do it once, you can do it 1,000 times, and then you just have to be consistent. I often see brands where the messaging one month is this, and that month it's this, and this month it's this. It's at some point when you're trying to speak to everyone, you're really not speaking to anyone. What you do in those points, you'd almost do it like a superhero movie does, or any ensemble cast movie you've ever seen. The reason you have an ensemble cast is because call all of us 20 different groups of people, right? Excuse me, I'm painting with a roller, but what if we could all kind of get into 20 groups? You're going to realize each superhero or each ensemble cast member, think of the show Friends, right? An easy one. Each one's going to speak to a different demographic. Each one's going to bring in a different audience in that show because that character speaks to them. That character validates how they feel about themselves and they can relate to it. So in that regard, you could take multiple different brands and speak to different characters, but when you're one brand just shooting it out to everyone, you're really not talking to anyone because no one fully feels at home with you. No one gets your message day in, day out, consistently to say, that's my brand. Oh, I like that brand. I like the way I feel when I partner with that brand. I like the way I feel when I buy that brand. I like the way I feel when I put that on the counter. There's a great book called The Hero and the Outlaw about archetypes. And I would encourage anyone that owns a brand to buy this book. You can just get it on Amazon, but it's The Hero and the Outlaw. And it breaks every brand into, I think, 13 archetypes. And it's the Joker, the teacher, the outlaw, the hero, the professor. There's a bunch. And you're going to read it and you're like, oh my God, this is my brand. And then you might realize that a certain amount or most of the brands you like all fit into one category because that category speaks to you. Harley Davidson is an outlaw brand. Budweiser is what they call an everyday man brand. Everyone likes it all the time. It's simple. It's not threatening. Anyone can have it any day, which is why the brands are very everyday man, come home from work and have a bud, right? So I would encourage everyone to take a look at this book only to help you understand what is your brand? What does it mean? Who are you talking to? Where do you live in the universe? Who's your dream customer? In a specific way, not just someone that wants wine. Who's your dream customer? Or not just someone that likes gin. Why your gin? There's 1,000 gins. Who cares? And that's it, guys. That's authenticity as a selling point or a point of differentiation. Any questions?
Well, hold on. I'm coming with a microphone for you.
I just spoke at a conference that has this little stuffed animal material cube. That's a microphone, and you can just throw it at people. It's awesome.
I apologize. What was the name of the book that you said to read?
It's called The Hero and the Outlaw. I can actually even tell you the author if you'd like. But it is an outstanding, outstanding book. You'll actually, those of you that stay up late drinking with your friends, it becomes quite a fun game to start putting your friends into archetypes or just go into different brands. But we actually look at brand building in its most simple sense. So we own a lot of our brands. 60% of the sales in my company are brands we own. So you generally start with a product. Jam Jar, Sweet Shiraz Juice, when it was still unnamed, was electric. All we knew is we had this juice that was higher S and exciting, and then we went to work on the brand. But this book can help you say, okay, who do I want to talk to? And once you know who you want to talk to, you can be really consistent in how you do it. Outlaw brands are always outlaw brands. Brands never seem to change. Coca-Cola, everyday person brand. It's going to be a cute polar bear in the ad. Regular people are going to be in the ad all the time. You don't see ads for like a nose pierced, horns in the head, like, saying buy Coke, because that's not their brand. And what they do is after decades and decades and decades, it's so consistent. People just feel at home with it. They just feel comfortable because the message is consistent every day. So actually, do you want me to find you the author, or any other questions while we Google? We can multitask.
Thank you. In terms of maintaining your authenticity, when you partnered with various other vendors, festivals, how did you maintain your authenticity in line with what they were trying to promote?
So step one is the right festival, right? You have to, it either makes sense to what you're doing. If you're an entry level wine, you don't go sponsor Burger Bash, right? Because Burger Bash is $250 a ticket. Date night for two, you're in for $500. Everyone's in $1,000 shoes. It is a hyper sophisticated evening event. Most likely not every day or new to category wine drinkers. So step one is, where do you go? What events? What events feel true to your brand? Like we do, really, we targeted beer because we know at any given beer anything, maybe there's women that would like a glass of wine. Maybe there's people that don't want a beer that day. And we could get crossover people, and it worked every time. But I think the first step is to really understand the event. You know, I wouldn't take Jam Jar to an art gallery opening, but we do tons of like pottery workshops and stuff like that. You know, getting at a really local level, we find it works. Every market has a Time Out magazine or a Thrillist edition or anything where there's always a cool calendar of stuff going on in the next month. We use that all over the country and say, where would we fit in? What would be cool for which brand? Not just should we be there, not like a shot in the dark, should we be there? Does it make sense for the brand we're trying to promote? And if it does, we run with it. Okay, so the author is Margaret Mark. Well worth the read. We reference it in literally everything we do to make sure we're on point to brand. If you're kind of a bad boy brand, you don't want to start sending out like Earth Day posts, right? Like or if you do, you have to do it in a really bad boy kind of way. You can't, or else you need to be consistent in your voice. Any other questions?
I have a question. So I've started a brand and a company called Enjoy, or Enjoy, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It's a play on two French words, meaning in, and joie, meaning joy.
Yeah.
My tagline is living in joy and style. And my vision is making learning about the food and wine lifestyle fun and accessible to all. My mission is to promote a cross-cultural exchange of flavors and ideas. So what that sums up to is basically making this world more comfortable and accessible to women and people of backgrounds that have not traditionally been comfortable in the wine world, going into a restaurant and ordering wine. You know, like that example of Pharrell, you know, just tasting Jam Jar for the first time. That's like me. The first time I really got into wine was when I had Sutter Home White Zinfandel at a business school conference in the 1980s, long ago. So I have made that transition from sweet to, you know, a little bit more refined. But do you think that there is definitely a place for, and I think you're saying this, you know, for sort of like relaxing your idea of what a great wine is, to be able to just make it comfortable and accessible to people who are just starting to enter the industry, you know, kind of taking yourself out of it and making the customer more of a focus. It's not all about you.
I think there's
at the same time, you still want people to understand like quality versus, you know, shit.
Listen, I would say step one, the era of putting shit, if you will, in a bottle and thinking you can sell it is over. Unless you have an enormous marketing budget, you're dead. The market's so smart now, right? Like, remember, everything we're doing is to get someone to pull the cork or unscrew the cap the first time. From there, the product's either going to excite them or it won't. You live on your product. So, enjoy, right? Think about, of those 13 archetypes, like 10 are out. You already fit into like 3. So then you can get really specific. It's fun, it's inclusive, it's relaxed. So you need relaxed messaging. But I think to the category you're trying to get into, every restaurant in America should have a $30 bottle of wine on the list. And should have maybe a $6 by the glass. Because frankly, I don't think people want to care, don't necessarily care. We're the 1%ers. We write the tasting notes and we go, it's mundane. Meanwhile, the market is just looking to relax. I'm in hotels 80 nights a year all over the US, and I'm amazed at how often I see someone in an expensive suit, expensive watch, roll up to the bar at an expensive hotel and just say, glass of Chardonnay. And I think, hot damn, we waste all this time trying to build brands. The guy just wants a drink, right? So that space of inclusive and just come on in is epic. Yes, 100%. We good? Thanks, everybody. I can stick around if there's any more questions right over.